everyone. We are back for another week of exciting rehearsals. This week, we are talking to MAASIN Executive Director Rand Clayton, and we get to talk to Scott Litzenberg about the Crossmen Alumni performance. We also find out what made Woody say,
"You know, from the era we come from, no. I'm not putting on someone else's uniform. I was not in drum corps."
And why Rand said,
and so I very patiently am always willing to explain that. And then some people will get it and say, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that does make sense. You are opposed to oppressive structures. These are oppressive structures. And drum corps and marching arts as a whole is not separate from all of these oppressive structures.
All this and more. So get out on the field and we will see you back on the sidelines for this week's episode of On a Water Break.
8 off the mat and go. Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts. Everyone, bring it in. It's time for a water break.
Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. I'm Jackie Brown. We are back this week. It has been a minute since I have been on, and this week I seem to be on my own for summer rehearsal today. Y'all, summer rehearsals are important. So we'll see if anybody else is going to join me later. But let's kind of get onto this, because now that the whole band is on the sideline, we're going to meet our guest clinician for this part of rehearsal. Since it's Pride Month, we thought it would be great to talk to and learn more about MAASIN founder Rand Clayton. Okay, now that everyone is here on the sideline, let's meet our guest clinician for this part of rehearsal as we begin to talk with the MAASIN founder, Rand Clayton. Hi there.
Oh, you were serious about the sound effects. Hey.
We have so many great sound effects. You're going to absolutely love this. So okay. I'm just going to give a little tiny background about what we've got. So you're the founder of the Marching Arts Access, Safety, and Inclusion Network, which, like I said, is MAASIN. It's dedicated to fostering a positive youth education and coaching culture in performing arts ensembles across the United States. MAASIN's mission is to be a catalyst for change, advocating for the safety, accessibility, and inclusivity in the marching arts. As a 501c3 organization, it is committed to charitable, educational, and scientific purposes with a vision of accessible and equitable marching arts for all. It opposes inequity, discrimination, and harassment, taking a progressive stance against capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, racism, sexism, and in favor of LGBTQIA plus rights. It was a whole lot of mouthful, but honestly, such a good thing, such a great program for our whole community. I feel like I remember when you first came out. So what was that like? When this first, you first developed the organization? What was that process like for you? Okay, so that's all really amazing stuff, and I'm really excited to get into it. But let's start with your 32 count life story. So I'm going to give you 8 for free on the Met, and then you're just going to jump in and tell us everything that's ever happened to you from birth until today.
Oh, fuck, okay.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, I was born in No, I wasn't born in Stouffville. I moved to Stouffville when I was 9, but I was born in Scarborough, Ontario. I am Canadian. That is a fun fact. So I don't know, I kind of just grew up in Canada doing Canadian stuff, been playing tuba since I was 11. When I was 18, I went to McMaster University for my undergrad degree, and that was where I became introduced to marching arts. So marching arts is not super big in Canada. Basically, there's nothing, but I happen to go to one of the 3 universities that has a marching band, and so I joined that, ended up taking it over in my 3rd year because it's student run, and then I ran that for 3 years, and then that's how I got involved in drum corps admin.
So that checks out. I feel like it checks out that you're Canadian. We've had some other people on the show who are Canadian, and we have one of our hosts is also Canadian, actually. So this is I feel like it fits in so perfectly. So tell us, what led you into all of this, into the creation of this organization? Because I remember what it was before, and And I really love what you've turned it into now. Like, this is honestly, what led you to all this?
So, man, summer 2020 was just so bizarre, I guess, with the drum corps season canceled and then everybody just like sitting inside and kind of wondering what was going to go on or what people were doing. And then with that empty time in the summer, when for the first time everybody in the community wasn't just thinking about this season, I think a lot of people started to reflect on what the experience was actually like for them. And so, that was what led me to create MAASIN. Was at the time I was finishing up my master's in social work degree, and I realized that maybe I had applicable skills that I could be using for real to better my community after several years of seeing some not cool things happen. I worked at the Oregon Crusaders in 2017 and 2018, and those were my first 2 years of drum corps staffing, so kind of thrown into the fire, if you will. Every year since then has been like fine. I haven't like witnessed any federal crimes, I don't think. But yeah.
I love that for you.
Thanks. I also love not witnessing federal crimes. Not to say that I directly witnessed any federal crimes at the Oregon Crusaders. They're probably happening though.
Well, that's the thing. Any of our listeners who don't actually know what happened, Oregon Crusaders has since folded, right?
Yeah, Oregon Crusaders 2018 season was the last season that they fielded. Yeah. They were attempting to come back for 2019, but most of the staff, including myself, had walked by then and said, we're not going to come back if you don't take children's safety seriously. We won't condone this. We're going to go work with other corps.
And that's like been such a powerful statement in our whole activity. This, how many groups have folded simply over the fact of, not necessarily financial problems or some of the other, there's always hurdles to running a 501c3 competitive performing arts unit. Mm-hmm. But just having finally member safety be one of those hurdles that they absolutely have to overcome before they can really exist is so great. So what's the most challenging part of running MAASIN?
Probably, there's kind of two main challenges, maybe three, I don't know. I mean, challenge number one is that I do wish that I could just do this as a full-time job, I guess. Right now I'm a full-time PhD student, which I love doing because I study queer culture in drum corps for my dissertation from like a social work perspective.
Oh, that's cool.
I do wish that we just had like the funding for me to dedicate my time to it fully, because I feel like an organization like this could easily be a full-time job. I could easily be running all this programming and doing all of these things for us, but that's just not something that's feasible right now. And also, because the economy is bad and everyone is struggling, our donation stream has definitely been impacted over the past 2 years, especially, which has been very rough.
Yep.
So, funding is another challenge because it's difficult for people to donate anyway. I feel like most people in the activity who are going to donate are probably going to donate to where they aged out at, which is fine. I'm not saying don't donate to your favorite corps or organizations that made a difference in your life, but I wish that people would think outside the scope of just donating to their favorite corps when they're thinking about how to help improve the activity for others. Although I will say that we do routinely get a lot of support for our March with Pride scholarship for LGBTQIA+ performers, which is very nice, and I do love how much the community has backed that. I feel like I had a third challenge. Oh yeah, the third challenge is people not understanding what angle we're actually coming from. One of my least favorite things is when people get on the internet and they look at, and they say things to me like, well, I respect what MAASIN is doing, and I think you guys are doing some cool stuff, but I think it's really silly, goofy, and stupid that you have stuff like you're opposed to capitalism, imperialism, and colonialism in your mission statement. And so I very patiently am always willing to explain that. And then some people will get it and say, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that does make sense. You are opposed to oppressive structures. These are oppressive structures. And drum corps and marching arts as a whole is not separate from all of these oppressive structures in the world. So it makes sense that you would have thoughts and opinions on how to navigate those. And then other people no, I think you're stupid and you're not focusing on the real issues.
Oh,
and it's okay, thanks. You can go do that then.
So that's one of those things you look at people and you're just like, okay, so clearly you only have this much of the perspective, this tiny little sliver, and you're looking at the whole, and these commenters are like,
Well,
They're
yeah,
like,
because it's so goofy to not, because like, for example, I think the classism one really gets me, because I can kind of see how people would find it a bit of a stretch to care about like imperialism and colonialism, because I feel like those are two things that the average person just maybe hasn't thought about too much in the US. Or Canada, for that matter. So, but capitalism, though, I find really funny because everyone and their grandma will get on the internet and talk about how drum corps costs too much, and it's insane that drum corps is a rich kid activity, and only rich kids can afford to do drum corps, and working class kids can't afford to do drum corps. And I'm like, there are reasons for that. If you're going to care about classism in the activity, you have to care about the system which creates classes. So that is the angle I'm coming at for that. But
so what's been like the most fun thing about doing all this? What do you feel like, how has this like enriched your life and made it more fun to be able to like, exist basically?
Honestly, some of my current best friends are just people who volunteered for MAASIN like years ago, which is kind of insane to think about. Like, when I started MAASIN in 2020, I didn't have anybody who really like co-started it with me right off the bat. I just posted on social media like, hey, I'm going to start this effort. I'd really love if other people wanted to get involved. If you're interested, just like shoot me a DM and I'll add you to the Slack that I made. Like, and then so a lot of people joined who I still talk to all the time now, even if they're not in MAASIN anymore, which is very funny because like there are people who joined and then were like, sorry, like grad school is too much or my life is too busy and I can't actually stick around for the organizing part.
Things change.
But I'm so glad that I've been able to make so many friends and meet so many people who really care about the same things that I do through MAASIN. That's been really nice.
That is so great to hear, Rand. And I am so glad to have you today. I really hope you're going to stick around later for our What Are We Doing and Gush and Go segment so we can get your input on those areas of our activity too. This week in the news, instead of doing our regular news rotational section, we have a very sad story. We lost one of the greats in our marching arts activity, Larry Riebeloff. We interviewed him here on A Water Break. He has unfortunately lost his battle to cancer this week. If you do want to go back and listen to our episode about the World Association of Show Bands, it's from August of 2023. You can learn all about him and his illustrious career in detail and get to hear just how inspiring and wonderful he was to get to talk to. He was a board member of the Blue Coats Drum and Bugle Corps, and he has a lovely obituary up on their website. So if you have a moment that you want to go and read some more about his life too, he was a drum major of the Bayonne Bridgemen. He worked with the Calgary Stampede, which is one of the most famous organizations. He has also been a color guard judge. I know he got me started in my color guard instructing and judging career. He also taught so many guards. In fact, where I met him was at the Music for All Summer Symposium, and he was one of the instructors who really kind of looked at me as a performer turning into an instructor and gave me a lot of inspiration and advice and really helped me sort of make that bridge, that transition from being a performer into being an instructor. So, having this personal connection and this sort of, I understand how he inspires so many people in the community because he is just one of those kind of people. So I'd like to go ahead and simply take a moment of silence to remember this man who has been such a driving force in the marching arts for so many generations. Thank you so much to all of you, our listeners. Our thoughts are currently with his family, friends, all of the people who he has inspired. And I'm pretty sure I just saw Scott pull up with the rest of the Crossmen alumni performers. So let's grab another rep before we get to chatting with them.
Hey, this is Christine Ream.
And Chris Green.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs.
Our consignment inventory has plenty of great looks for your color guard, drumline, and marching band.
Pay it forward. When you purchase consignment, you help other programs. Last year, we sold over 400 sets of consignments and returned over $125,000 in payments to our consigners for their sales.
Additionally, Guard Closet offers custom and pre-designed costumes, flags, floors and formal wear, full or partial show writing, educational programming, and other services.
Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
The Guard Closet team is here to help you get everything you want and need for your season. Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Okay, it is time to welcome some additional guest hosts to the sideline. Please give a warm water break welcome to the coordinator for this year's Crossmen Alumni performance, Scott Litzenberg, plus some actual alumni performers. So on the call we have Matejka, Dawn Group, and returning to the podcast is Dawn Lewis from our first female drummers episode. Hi, everybody. So I'm so excited to have you guys here. I'm going to be doing an alumni performance this summer for the first time ever as a Blue Star alumni, and it's been like forefront in my mind. So I've been like watching all these alumni courses come together and watching everything you guys are doing and just absolutely soaking up every bit of it. So let's start with our 32 count life story. We're going to go ahead and do this with each guest. So what'll happen is you will hear the Dr. Beat. Dr. Beat is going to give you 8 counts on the Met, and then you just jump right in with your life story, and we want to know everything about you from the day you were born until you got the invitation to be on this podcast. So, Scott, how do you feel about starting off?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it.
I'm Scott Litzenberg. I originally was from Fairfax, Virginia, went to Lake Braddock High School, went to Westchester University, ended up majored in music there, marched in cadets, became director of Crossman back in the 80s, again in 06, cadets director 18-19, got asked to be coordinator for this alumni corps, and I'm one of 3, and I'll talk about more about that later. So glad to be here.
All right. Let's go to Tina.
Hi, my name's Matejka, and I grew up in the Syracuse area of New York State in Baldwinsville, and I went as well to college at Westchester, and I marched with the Crossmen for 2 years, and then I was a grad assistant at University of Massachusetts with some more Crossmen and Westchester people. And then I was a band director for 31 years, conducting marching bands, and I'm retired now, and I conduct a community band, and I'm really happy to be part of the Alumni Corps.
All right, how about Dawn Group?
Hi, my name's Dawn Group. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Grew up in the suburbs outside of the city. Marched in Crossman 1984, 1985, and 1987. Went to Point Park University here in the city of Pittsburgh. Taught various high schools around the area after I got out of marching. And I currently am a marketing director for a software company. And really looking forward to this summer.
Nice. Okay, and Dawn, since you have already been on the show and done your 32 count life story before, we don't necessarily need a whole life story from you because people can go back, like I said, back to that first female drummers episode that we did. That was an amazing episode. Still ranks literally one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. And can you just give our audience who maybe hasn't listened to that episode a little bit of a introduction as to who you are and what you do?
I started playing snare drum when I was about to enter high school, and I started doing that because I just thought it was very, very cool. My brother was a snare drummer at the time, and he was my first teacher. And his first instructor took us to our first drum corps rehearsal, the Skyliners, which is a senior corps from New York.
Yeah.
And because of that connection that I had, I just fell in love with it right away. So I tried out for the Skyliners after feverishly trying to learn how to play snare drum for a year or two. And then I ended up marching in the Skyliners in 1991 when I was 16 years old. And I was the first snare drummer female ever in the Skyliners. And I was just a baby. And I had no idea the people... Thank you very much. I had no idea the amazing people I was surrounded by at the time. But I've had literally the best influences a girl could hope for. So it really helped a lot. And that's about it for that. And then you could go back and hear more detail if you like.
All right, that's awesome. Like I said, go back and listen to that first Female Drummers episode. It is so good. Oh my gosh, look who just pulled up. I really hope you brought me some Starbucks, sir. It is Woody. Hey.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Not Starbucks, but close enough.
Well, we know stuff happens, but you are here, and I'm so glad that we've got you because we're about to talk about the Crossmen alumni performance. This is like seriously so exciting that you guys are getting to do this year. So, Woody, what is your connection here with Scott and all of our other guest performers who are here with us today?
Well, with the Crossman thing, it's all about the Philadelphia connection. These days, no one ever really thinks about it being a Philadelphia thing. But when I was a kid, they practiced right in Philadelphia. They called it Boeing Beach. Right at the Boeing airport, and opposite side of the city, but all my friends who marched in Crossman, at the end of the afternoon, going into the evening, they would leave and go to Crossman practice. You need more of my connections?
Well, let's talk about this alumni performance. So how have you guys been jumping into rehearsals lately already? Is there like virtual stuff going on? Do you have people locally? So kind of tell us how this sort of came about and what are sort of the basis that's going on right now.
Yeah, I'll go back to the beginning when we started this. It was literally almost 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, we started this process. Rick Reedy, the alumni president, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, what do you think about, we're coming up on 50. Should we try to do it? Because we watched Vanguard do it. The Bluecoats are getting ready to do it that summer." And so we started, I started shaking the trees and asking permission. I got a hold of Dan Atchison at DCI, and he said if we wanted to do it in 2024, the summer was ours, and he was very excited about that. So I said to Rick, he asked me to be the director, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that with something like this, that we should probably have a team that's doing this. So we decided to call ourselves coordinators, and it's Rick Reedy, Danita Stemmet, who's in Wichita, Kansas, and myself are the three coordinators. So we kind of decided to divide and conquer and each take responsibility for different portions of doing this. I was taking care of the drum corps side of things as far as production staff, that kind of stuff. Danita's doing a lot of the administrative areas, and Rick was doing a lot of the databasing and the stuff on the alumni website. And actually, Don is more than just a member that's marching. We got him involved on the marketing part of it and social media stuff, and he's been a part of our admin team from the beginning of this thing as well. So we're just using whatever talents we have out there to try to pull off this $500,000 one performance drum corps that is kind of an insane thing to even think about putting together, but it's working. I have a lot of alumni that have been getting together in groups in parks and different places. Dawn's been a part of that with a bunch of drummers a few times. People in Florida that have gotten together. Some folks in Ohio have gotten together. We had a camp at Westchester University in February with about 145 members that came in out of our 360-ish that were marching. So about a third of the corps. And they came from as far away as Michigan and Florida, Tennessee, Canada. Quite a few of our Canadian members came down. And then a few weeks ago, we had a rehearsal at Upper Darby High School for 2 days. We did a Saturday and a Sunday with about 150 members there. We're having two big camps that a member is required to be at one or the other. And one of them is in San Antonio in a few weeks. Same weekend as the regional. We're doing a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we're doing one the weekend of Allentown, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 3 days. we'll be rehearsing at North Penn High School where the actual junior corps is staying. And then we head out. Everybody has to check in Monday night in Indy. We're rehearsing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Indy and performing Friday night at the end of semifinals. So it's a very aggressive production schedule.
Nice.
Yep. It's a lot. At Upper Darby, we put on, Tina, what was that, 12 drill sets we got on the whole, all of part one, we did all that drill, right? So we got all of part one on the field with the 150 people that were there. Part two was ready to go, and then we made, based on how our rehearsals went at Upper Darby, we made a executive decision to change how we're doing part two and some of the remaining part of the show, just to make sure we can get it all done. We are very, we have, I think the number of hours left of rehearsal is about 40, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. That's usually 3 days of rehearsal for a junior corps, and we're looking at having to do that. So, Tina, you were and Dawn, you were both at Upper Darby. What did you guys think of that rehearsal?
Well, it was something to behold. I will say this. I've been at and will be at every camp, and I've been at every snare rehearsal that's happened in the Northeast. I actually started to get people together because I figured the sooner we start, the better. Over a year ago, it was April, I believe, we all got together, and we've been doing it once a month with anyone who can come, second Sunday of every month. And so it's interesting because it's a different combination of human beings at every camp. So we're literally finding out who we're even going to be like standing next to. And at the next camp, I'm sure I'm going to meet all the people who are in Texas and that whole zone, because I'm going to go to San Antonio as well, even though I'm out here. So I'll be at both. And I'm just fascinated with, just seeing the faces every single time, because it's always new people. So it's like a reunion every time. And I've just been loving every minute of it. It's been amazing.
I can't tell you how much, last summer I helped out with the Trooper Legacy Corps thing that did the same DCI performance. And I'm listening to you guys talk about it. And the parallels are so similar, except for you guys are going to be a little bit more prepared. You're taking an easier path. We stayed online, and then the week of DCI put everything together. So I guess it won't be as bad on you as it was on us. Woo!
Let's hope.
Yeah, I'm amazed to hear about the drill for sure.
Let us all hope, Woody.
Tina, what about you from Upper Darby?
Okay, so there's kind of two stories about getting back on the field. Whereas the percussion and the horns have paper music that they can take home, or they get through the email and they can learn, the rifles, flags, and sabers are all learning by video. So once a segment is done, it goes out from Tyler on video, and everybody tries to learn. Having been an educator for decades, I know people learn differently, and some people learn. It's very difficult for them to learn from a video, because you have to reverse it, because they're doing the work at you, and you have to think of everything. Oh, it's my left, it's my right. And the other part is that I think there's a learning curve, and I know for myself, who've taught guards and designed and conceptualized ever since I marched in 79 and 81, that it got easier. And so now, you get to segment 2 and you're like, yeah, I got this. I can watch counts and counts and counts and internalize it. And then I can go out and do it. The other unique thing, which I think is the story that you probably want also from marching at Upper Darby, is that we were, we're moving, and there's a gawk, and they're counting us off, and the guard little by little is picking up their equipment once we know where our sets are, and we're spinning. And then they brought out the drum line, and the drum line was learning their part, and we all stood there, and someone in the guard actually turned and she said, "Tears, I'm going to cry." And the rest of us are looking around like, what are you talking about? They're going to count us off and we're going to spin. What's the big deal? And man, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. When that drum line played and we spun to live music on the field for the first time, there wasn't a dry eye in the guard.
That's
We had chills going up on our arms and up our spine, and there were tears in all of our eyes, and it was, I'll never forget it. There's been very few experiences like that in my life that I never saw coming, and I don't think I'll ever outlive it. So it's great.
Oh, that makes me so excited to hear.
I was at Westchester when we played ensemble on the second day. Tina, you guys were all there. I'm trying to talk to the corps to do a wrap up, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Just like now, you're just saying that, just to see this start to, after 3 years of getting this ready, to see people show up and getting out of their cars and staggering to the field, trying to figure out how to use the UDB app, and everybody's like, "Well, let's give us our count sheets." It's like, no, you got to. Half the battle was getting everybody to learn how to use the app on their phone, which the UDB company. It's freaking awesome giving that to our drum corps to use for this whole production without any cost to this drum corps, which is pretty amazing. But they're also alumni of doing this, so they get what this is, But it was very emotional watching that, and then having the horn line and drum line arc up on Sunday with the color guard in the back doing the guard work with the stuff that we had put together already. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Dawn, have you been in a full rehearsal yet? I know you've been working on the marketing side of things.
Yeah,
there's a good story to that, right, Don?
Yeah, there's a bit of a story to that, but I will tell you just from listening to Dawn and Tina's comments, for me, it's emotional because a lot of my responsibility in the beginning was recruiting, and there were days when we had 50 people. And then, we'd get to 100, and we had this, it was like, great, we got 100 people. And then it just kept snowballing eventually. And to think back to when, are we going to have enough people to actually pull this off, to having it actually starting to become real is kind of gets me a little bit thinking about it. But I have not been able to be at a full rehearsal yet. Because I had some health challenges. March 12th of this year, I had my left foot amputated. So it just from a timing standpoint, I have not been able to get there. Fortunately, I was smart enough when I was 18 to learn how to play mallets. So as far as my drill responsibilities, they are very minimal.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is something that it was very fortuitous, and having the foresight 40 years ago to realize that I would need that this year. So yeah, I am desperately looking forward to getting together with everybody at the beginning of August and putting this all together. Because for me, I've been fighting these physical challenges for about 8 years, which culminated in the surgery I had back in March. So it's been, when this whole thing started, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to be able to do it. And now I've had my my prosthetic for it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow, and I'm walking really well and just trying to build up some strength and some endurance so that I can make this thing happen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Don.
If you wanted to,
Nice.
if Don wanted to do this, he had to have a prosthetic. We're not going to drag him across the field to get him.
Yeah, we're gonna get like a little cart, just drag me out there, and
so we decided not to do that.
That's awesome.
I got to tell you, the most surprising thing so far about doing this is the sheer volume of people who, when they get out of their car and they see other people, just seeing the reconnections. We knew that was going to happen, but now after the second camp that we just had, now you get people reconnecting that just met in February that feel like they've known these people for the last 50 years. And that's really cool. And now it's generations reconnecting that never knew each other. And now they're going to have that connection in addition to their original connection from when they started. We're going all the way from putting uniforms together and coming up with the uniforms, picking the music. The whole process of doing this has been all about connecting the generations, connecting the dots from year 50 all the way back to year one. And we have somebody marching from every year of this drum corps, except for this year. Because obviously this is the 50th season, so none of those members are marching as part of our show. They might be involved in some other way, but right now, we have 49 out of 49 years worth of people marching in this. We actually have a couple that were in the two feeder corps of the Crossmen that never marched in the Cross. We have a couple of them because we opened it up to those members as well. And one of them's son was a bass drummer back in the 90s. So he's getting to march with his son, who was a Crossman, and he was a 507 Hornet, because there was two drum corps that formed the Crossmen, 507 Hornets and a Keystone Regiment. So it's cool that we have a couple members from the feeder corps that created the Crossmen as well as the Crossmen.
That's amazing that you're able to bring all these people together. And it's kind of like seeing everybody after life has happened to them. You come in with we come into your junior corps and you're like fresh out of high school, or maybe you're still in high school or something. And everybody's just so young and vibrant and hasn't had a whole lot of experience, but coming back as alumni when everybody's had different experiences, what's that been like, kind of trying to mesh everybody together?
One of the funniest comments at Upper Darby was somebody who's a few years older than me turns to me on Saturday afternoon and goes, "Where'd all these damn old people come from?" And we are them. We are the old people. But
that's funny.
I don't think any of us think of ourselves that way. I really do. I think this keeps you younger.
No,
I think that's what's amazing about it.
Keep you younger. Again, and I hate to keep harping on this thing, but I can't tell you how identical your experience is to the one I had last summer, except for the emotional part, because I was not a trooper, and that is the reason why I did not participate, because. From the era we come from, no. I'm not putting on someone else's uniform. I was not in the drum corps. But to be a person to sit on the sidelines and watch all those things that Don spoke about with the personal interactions, and Scott, how you just mentioned people getting out of the car and reconnecting right away. All these things just came together like that. And I really appreciated that, It was something that was fulfilling about it. But I guess that's what keeps us in the activity, huh? Keeps us young. Not to bring my health or anything. That in itself is funny, Donna, that you mentioned it, because I can't tell you how many of us were broken, but they were going to get out on that field. It was really fun.
I tell you what,
I can tell you how people felt getting out of the car in the morning, and how they felt getting back in the car in the evening was a very different feeling.
It's true.
It was a very different feeling.
I'll tell you, the one thing for me with the issues I've had with my health over the past few years, having this to look forward to has been something that really has driven me to,
That's awesome.
Like having this on the calendar, saying, okay, I've got to get to this point by this day and this point by this day, and
that's awesome.
It's really I'm not entirely sure that I would have gotten through this physically, what the challenges that I'm dealing with, if I did not have this.
Cool.
To look forward to.
That's inspiration. Thank you. That's awesome.
That's awesome. I love hearing that too, because
if I could say one thing about
we can say
what I'm the most excited about is finishing the show. What I'm the most scared about is finishing the show, because to get this done, it's going to be crazy, and I know we're going to get it done. So I'm real excited about it.
I don't think I'm scared about anything, but I did want to say that when I'm in the flag rehearsals or the Upper Darby or anywhere, the years between when these people were my friends and now have disappeared. It's hard to think. So many years and so many life experiences existed and passed between the last time, like Sue and I shared a house together, or Deb and I were at rehearsals together. I mean, the time, it's just not there. So I can't wait. Mm-hmm.
It's, going back to Don's thing, not to make this a geriatric episode, But I had to tell you, man, I really believe that this sport keeps us young. You know, I have some physical I have some physical things going on. I'm without a kidney. And when I walk into the place to see the doctors or whatever, they are always so amazed because I'm so upbeat and so chipper and so happy, and they're like, how do you do it? And you know, I'm working and I was teaching, and they're like, how are you doing this? I have to believe that this activity has a healing power, definitely at that level, that makes us, we have something to live for. When most people do not. We're very lucky.
Yep.
Very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Dawn, what about you? What are you most excited for and most worried about?
Honestly, I've been thinking about something since everybody else spoke, and Tina mentioned something about how the color guard has to learn a different way, and all of the years that Scott mentioned that are represented. And I think, and it's funny, it could be overlooked, that you have to remember that 50 years ago, a lot of these drummers did not read music. And they are revisiting something that they haven't done in years. So the efforts that are actually really being put in to make sure everybody gets to participate is well beyond what you can imagine. Because there are guys that haven't never read music in their lives that are participating. And then we have other guys that are literally teaching drum corps currently. So the amount of time and energy that each individual is putting in because of the diverse levels of even education they were offered at the time, it has been absolutely amazing and an honor to be a part of that process. And I am to no end dedicated to every single one participating that night, no matter what. So all I've been doing and my buddies have been doing is actually making videos. We make videos of every section at slower tempos, at different angles. And I send them to individuals who ask for them. And so do my friends and my buddies that are really out there, reading music. They've been doing this a long time. We've been really working our asses off. So if you want the nitty gritty, which is what you didn't ask me, I'll give you that. We've been busting our butts to make sure that we can present something that the Crossmen in the next 50 years can feel blown away by.
Awesome. So if our followers, if our listeners want to follow you guys and see the Crossmen alumni come together on social media, how should they go about finding that? Are you guys posting on the Crossmen Instagram page, or do you have your own separate one, or is it on YouTube? Where can we find sort of stuff?
Right now, the Crossmen are ramping up to being on the road and doing what they're doing. Their social media team wants to add some of what we're doing in with theirs.
Okay.
But we're not doing a separate Instagram, separate that kind of stuff. Our Facebook page is really just for members only. It's a way that we can communicate. But if they follow the regular Crossman social media stuff, you're going to start to see some stuff popping up on that. We haven't had much to be able to do because we haven't had many rehearsals and stuff, So now we have some more to do with that. Got some good footage from Upper Darby, and they're working on some segments for us to do for that.
Plus, there was clandestine. There was the clandestine aspect of it too, where we tried to keep as much of it to ourselves prior to the performance as possible. So.
And I can tell you, in this day and age of costumes, we are wearing a uniform, and when we come to the gate, you will know exactly who we are. Yeah. There will be no question of what drum corps is busted into Lucas Oil Stadium on Friday night.
All right. Okay, well, go follow the Crossmen's Instagram and social media, and you will see the Crossmen alumni. We need to get back out on the field because we need to look good before our alumni start showing up. So we'll see you guys after the break.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, and here are your announcements coming from the box. Don't miss all of our bonus content, including On a Water Break in Rhinestones with your host Lexi Duda, exploring the world of the Twirlers. Don't miss Parades and Drum Majors at Step Off with your host Jack Goudreau, and get lost in translation with your host Cynthia Bernard, exploring all the words that confuse all of us in the marching arts all across the world. And go Behind the Lens with marching arts photographers all across the country with your host, Chris Marr. Plenty more bonus content from On a Water Break, so listen anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to be on a Water Break as a guest, or you know somebody that would make a great guest for On a Water Break, email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com.
All right, we are back, and several of our guests have decided to stick around and join us for our my favorite segment, honestly, nowadays. It's What Are We Doing?
Your favorite section?
What are we doing?
It's just one of my favorite things. Like, you get to air your grievances. Maybe somebody one day will hear it and make some changes. You never know. Woody, do you want to start off?
Oh, you always give me this way, Jackie, don't you? Grievances, no, I'm a pretty happy guy. I'm pretty excited that the season is about to start. Everything's falling in line for me for the summer. I'm very excited. I don't have any grievances, actually. I'm sorry, Jackie.
You don't have any. There's no grievances with the start of DCI coming up.
No. I tell you why. I know there's a lot of things we could be upset about, but we should be thankful that our activity is still rolling because, all right, we have a very expensive lifestyle. We toss a lot of money up in the air just for our own personal entertainment. And,
true.
I read the posts, you hear people talk about it, and I know things are not the way they used to be, but we're very fortunate to have it. And as in the previous segment, we still are very fortunate to have those friends that we made, those friendships that are just bonded in cement, that when you see them after 20 years, you see them and, hey, Tina, Woody, and you pick up right where you left off. Gotta love that, right? Instead of ducking behind the rack when you see someone in the cow door. Oh God. This Joe from high school. Oh, God.
So Woody's What Are We Doing is, what are we doing not being more thankful for our activity?
Way to bring it together for me there, Jackie. That's why you're the captain.
Well, I just like to make sure we're guided in the right direction. Rand, I'm excited to hear about yours because I know it's not a unique experience to what happened, but what are we doing, Rand?
What are we doing with the state of porta potties in this activity? This is something I have been thinking about since 2018 when I saw the scariest porta potties I've ever seen in my goddamn life at the Atlanta Regional. It's so hot. It's disgusting. They're tiny. And either you're like me and you are an idiot who wears overalls all the time and then it's difficult to put all the straps together and everything. Or what if you're in uniform? I cannot picture trying to fix my uniform up in these porta potties without dropping them in, gauntlets, a hat, I don't know, like whatever pieces people have on their uniforms. And I've been thinking about this for so long because I cannot look at a porta potty, I cannot think of a porta potty, I cannot see a porta potty without thinking of the Atlanta 2018 porta potties in the lot, because it was just a miasma of demonic energy emanating from those porta potties. There was bugs. It was a writhing mass of bugs in the porta potty. And I thought maybe I had made that up until years later I made friends with someone. I made friends with Sarah Bowden, and it came up just on its own one day where they were talking about being traumatized by the 2018 Atlanta Regional porta potties. And it's not we don't have better porta potties available to us. I know that it would be more expensive, but there's those ones that are more like a bathroom, you rent a trailer that has multiple in them. I don't know. I feel like it's worth investigating. I feel like it's worth perhaps investing in. I don't know how we haven't had more porta potty related casualties or traumas in this activity, frankly.
Well, especially
it's going to have to be the next like Mason campaign, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Well, I got to tell you,
throwing it back
when I marched, you didn't get any porta potties.
Tell us, Scott.
You got to figure that out.
Porta potty.
I'm sorry, sir. You weren't allowed to use the ones on the buses because you get your butt kicked. So I take a fly-infested hot box of a porta potty over anything that we had back then.
I'm pretty sure most corps still you can't use the bus bathrooms.
Not allowed.
Yeah, number 2 was a violation.
You're gonna get called a bus pooper if you use a bus bathroom.
Yeah, you can go number 1, but you can't go number 2, right?
Well, I was just going to say, like, throwing it back to the traditions of the uniforms and everything, you know, some corps are like, you don't take off a piece of your uniform in public, so you can't even remove, like, your accessories and stuff outside of the porta potty before you go in, and that's scary.
And listen, I used to run the Atlanta Regional. I can tell you, more times than not,
Did you run it in 2018?
I was about to say, turn out,
2018. I ran it up to 2018. But I can tell you,
I'll forgive you then.
More times than not, people go to those porta potties not in full uniform. It's when they first get in the lot or after they perform. So it is quite the show to watch around the porta potties. That's
terrible. Just terrible.
Scott, from your perspective,
next time you have a problem.
I question that a lot and Woody kind of made a comment about it. You know, people that. We didn't used to do it this way. We didn't used to do it that way. I wish people would just enjoy what this activity is for what it is and not try to make it something that it was 40, 50, 70 years ago. I mean, if we did that with cars, we still would have a button on the floor for hygiene, for God's sakes.
You'd be riding horses.
Things change. Yeah, some things change for the better. Once in a while, you end up having an Aries K car, and once in a while, you have something better, you know. And the market certainly drives that. And I wish sometimes the armchair drum majors and the armchair show designers would just take a breath before they want to rip apart what kids are doing, working just as, I can tell you, the drum corps nowadays work harder than when I marched. Not even close as far as how hard the hours they put on the field and what they have to do from a physical standpoint. I don't know if I could have ever done that. So I just wish people would just back off a little bit and not be so vengeful.
Well, there's a conversation within itself. That's another show, Scott.
I was going to say, that's a whole episode. I feel like we could really get into that.
It's more like a whole nother season.
Tina, what are we doing?
I'll half answer your question that was kind of inspired by everyone else. And it's a little bit back to like the Crossmen and the whole alumni years through it, is that when the Crossmen and like most drum corps started, they were only pulling in people from certain, areas, wherever they were from, like the Philadelphia area for the Crossmen. And I marched in 79 and 81, and there was a huge difference between 79 and the local people who came from the Hornets and the Bracken Cavaliers and all of those that connected. And there were a few band kids like myself who really liked marching band and wanted to do more of it and wanted to do it in the summer and wanted to be really good at something. And then in 81, it was, by the time I came back another year later, there were a whole more band and college musicians and such. And then throughout all of these years, most of the drum corps have become, there's a move-in date, and we had a move-in date, but like I just found another apartment in town, or people lived in a house with 20 other people.
20 other people.
Yeah, and now you go to any drum corps and you poll like where are you from or where do you live or where do you go to college, and it's all over the country. So the unique experience with doing the Upper Darby camp and the Westchester camp in February and all of these guard rehearsals that we've been having like every other week, it seems, down in that area, is that those people that I marched with all lived there. So I know them. And I'm doing the San Antonio camp, and that'll be exciting. But that's, I don't want to say hired guns, but those are like people who pay thousands of dollars every year, and they move in and like, I want to be a Crossman, or I want to be a Blue Devil, or I want to be a Phantom Regiment, and they work it into their summer. They've earned money and they move in, but they're not necessarily from there. There's an identity, that core that they're drawn to. So I feel really fortunate to have been part of the core when it was a little bit more of a local community. It was the college areas of New Jersey and Pennsylvania and a little bit of New York, and I think it's a little bit different now.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's good or it's bad, but
right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
We rehearsed Friday nights at the elementary school down there in Media, and I marched in cadets in '82. 83, we had every Sunday from 12 to 5, we had rehearsal in Garfield. That's what we did. We didn't have a camp until March. We just rehearsed every Sunday because most of the corps showed up on Sunday.
Every Sunday. We never had a winter camp. You come back after the last show just before September. You come back in October, and every Sunday until it got warm outside again. It was like a YMCA club thing. I do remember those days, Scott.
Right.
We drum on the cafeteria table.
Wasn't it like Green Lane Elementary School or something like that in Rose Tree Media? I think something like that.
I'm sorry. Was that Scott? Oh well, we lost it. We lost the moment, Jack.
I feel like I kind of marched on the cusp of what you're talking about, Tina, with people coming in. I went to the Blue Stars, and I was very much an out-of-stater, and so many of the members were still local, and there was just a few of us who had come from other states, and it was just neat. It was just a really neat experience to kind of be a part of that sort of changeover, because it really was different. And I know that there was a lot of different connections that were formed prior to the core, prior to the core having rehearsals and stuff, because a lot of these kids went to school together, or they went to rival schools or something in the area, and they all knew each other. But okay, that's enough complaining for now. It's time to do our Gush and Goes.
Great job, everyone. Set your equipment down. Gush and Go.
All right, so this is the segment where we gush and go on about anything related to the marching arts. And Woody, do you want to start us off? This is the other favorite segment of mine. This is like the opposite of what are we doing? It's what you love.
The entire show should be your favorite, Jack.
Honestly, I have a hard time picking.
I'm really looking forward to the fall. As you know, I've been doing a lot of judging, and I'm actually getting my first airplane judging show this year. I'm going down to Louisiana, and I can't tell you how super psyched I am, because I've been looking at expanding my world that way, and I'm looking forward to that. So I can't wait for drum corps to be over, because marching band to be there, and I've been honing my skills, and I'm ready to go.
Rand, what do you want to gush and go on about?
I'd like to gush about Sound Sport, actually. So, I guess people know that this year with the Bluecoats, I'm actually the operations manager at Rhythm and Blue, which has been fun to switch it up and go back to Sound Sport, because that is the category that I competed in when I competed, because I'm Canadian, and so we're kind of nerfed in the drum corps department, especially if you're poor and can't afford to go to the US to march like I couldn't. So I think it's really interesting how there's lots of groups that are kind of doing their own thing, and how it provides a lot of freedom for how you want to run your group, whether you'd like to try to go to a different category like open or world class in the future, or all age, or whether you'd like to kind of just keep it in Sound Sport to keep doing crazy and wacky things with like a bunch of saxophones or whatever you want to be doing. I think it's providing a lot of opportunities, which I think is fun to see, and I'm having a fun time being back in it, and also connecting with other people who are trying to make cool things happen in the category.
I think it was the porta potty. That's what I think. You're not doing it because of the porta potty.
I'm doing it because, I get to be in like the convention center or whatever instead of the porta potty situation. Yep, you got me.
One of the scholarship winners at Spintronics this year is a Sound Sport member, and this is the first time I think that we're sponsoring somebody who is doing Sound Sport. They're marching with the Memphis Blues, so it's cool to see Sound Sport, doing the thing that it was designed to do, and like creating these opportunities for different types of groups and smaller groups. I love it too. I'm going to gush about that myself too. I love sound sport.
No, I've actually joked about how the experience. So this kind of harkens back to what you guys were talking about with how there's no local core anymore. Nobody does their like local core, but sound sport is kind of bringing that back in a way in which they are local groups that are having local kids at them. And something I've joked about is that doing rhythm and blue is closer to the original Bluecoats experience than the Bluecoats is now, because we're all like sleeping in the Champion Event Center at night. You know, we're in the bingo hall. That's where we're setting up shop on the weekends in Ohio. So I think it's just funny.
Not the bingo hall. Wow.
Scott, what would you like to gush and go on about?
I'd like to gush and go that we have put together an administrative and design team for this alumni corps that is doing this for nothing, that we've been meeting. Well, we started with just 2 or 3 of us 3 years ago, and now every Wednesday night, and Tina's been part of these meetings too with the design team. And I look at the screen some nights and just go, these are people who are legends in this activity, who are just working so hard to make sure they create this kind of experience. I mean, when you have Tom Hannum, Jeff Sacktick, Ralph Pace, Bob Morrison, Eric Kitchenman, all these people, Mark Thurston, Chris Thompson, all these people on one phone call, trying to put this thing together out of the goodness of their heart. They're not getting paid
amazing
to do this. I mean, Jeff's calling us from Carolina Crowns camp. Well, I know he has drill to get done, but he gets on the phone with us every week to make sure that this is happening. Bobby Jones is in there. It's just amazing. I'm very thankful. I love the volunteers that we have, the number of people that are volunteering from a medical standpoint. I mean, all the areas we have to cover, and most of all, Danita Stemmet and Rick Reed. I mean, you talk about people who are committed to doing this. So I feel really good about it. And I will always say that the team is pulling this thing off because it absolutely has been an incredible team.
Scott, it's funny. It's funny when you say that because the way we look at it now, the legends are more Midwest to Western oriented. But when you talk about this Crossman Alumni Drum Corps, if there are people who have been around in the 80s and live to now, you will see that that Crossman alumni thing should be stacked with the people who built this activity because it was such a hardcore East Coast kind of thing working its way out to the West. And all the innovators, just when you said that, I was like, wow, you should be stacked with.
Yeah, and Woody, I forgot Matt from past you, who wrote some of the most amazing horn arrangements of that drum corps from the late 80s all the way to the mid 90s. I mean, he's writing all the horn stuff. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive, pretty overwhelming. And we get on the call a half an hour early. Well, we get on the call a half an hour early every week just to sit there and tell drum corps stories. It's crazy. And that's the best part of the week. Right? That's the best part of the week. And it starts up immediately. It starts up immediately with somebody abusing somebody else because that's just what they did,
Look, hey, Scott, I'm leaving, standing in front of my car. All right, I'm leaving. It's an hour later. All right, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm getting in. Yeah. And then someone says something, and you're back out of your car. It is the best part of it all.
Yeah.
That's that friendship.
The people, and I can't wait to spend. We got the hotel warned that we're all staying in one hotel out in the Indy, and they know what's coming. Same place the Bluecoats stayed a couple of years ago. Bluecoats have been unbelievable in helping us with all their information. Larry Hirschman, all the details. He sent me a book with that thick of everything that they did for their alumni corps 2 years ago, and he got a bunch from Santa Clara, and we're sharing a bunch of ours with Spirit of Atlanta for next year. So we're just all trying to do this. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to keep enough air in the wheel to get to the end of the road.
Yeah, well, that Bluecoats kind of set the standard now. I had to tell you, they had the tripper people all worked up. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be okay.
Tina, what do you want to gush and go about today?
Okay, so I was thinking, well, when I was in grad school, one of my professors said there's no substitution, let's say, for the experience of doing something that truly excels. And probably one of like the cumulative greatest experiences was doing the drum corps with all of these people, and living, eating, sweating, breathing, getting sick, getting healthy, and experiencing all the great stuff that comes with it from doing that. And then teaching 31 years, I tried to make sure that my kids had those experiences, because you seek them when you know what it is to be part of something that's really good, and you kind of saturate yourself with that to create it. And it's such a great feeling, man. You want your kids to feel like that. You want anyone you come in contact with to feel like that. And so coming back and doing this core is all the chills and the excitement and the tears all over again. And so, yeah, it's great to be able to step in those shoes and step in those uniforms, and it's just going to be great. And I also found out the other night on the thing that I'm going to get to be able to conduct part of one of the pieces backfield, because having been a conductor at Westchester and having a community band and stuff like that, but being part of the Guard, which is the best thing, being part of a team, there's nothing like it. So yeah, no, I'm gushing about that.
Yay! Awesome. We also have Christine Ream is going to jump in here and throw in her gush and go. And I just want to do a really quick congratulations to our host, Ashlee Tran. She's not here right now, but it's because she just had her baby last night. And I'm so excited for her to be expanding her family. Thank you guys so much for a great rehearsal this week. Thanks to all of our hosts, Woody, Rand, Scott, Tina, Dawn. Where can we find you guys on social media?
I'm on Facebook.
I'm pretty much on Facebook. I have Instagram, but I don't know what the hell to do with it. So I'm just on Facebook.
Same here.
Scott, if you're scared, get a dog. If you're scared, get a dog.
You heard my dog.
We had an Eagles thing this week on Facebook. If you're scared, get a dog, Scott.
Go, baby.
Rand, what about you?
I would prefer that people followed the MAASIN social media. Yeah. So that's MAASIN, and then the rest of the word network. So it's network preceded by MAASI. And that is on Twitter, that is on Instagram, and then we are also on Facebook. You can just search us up there. My actual accounts are locked right now because of a job application that I'm waiting to hear back from.
Nice. Well,
don't need them asking what the hell I'm doing in Ohio so often.
MAASIN is doing awesome work out there, so I hope everybody goes and follows and makes sure they are up on all of that stuff, because it's great. So one more thing, don't forget we have our YouTube channel. It has many of our interviews as full video editions, so go and subscribe so you don't miss those. And then before you close out of your podcast listening app, go subscribe, write us a review. I love reading your guys' reviews. Share this with a friend. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media at On a Water Break, and we'll see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.